Okay, today we're going to talk about FI dominant people and my experience with them. Because comparing it to FI inferior is very fascinating. And I need to talk about it. So, imagine FI in the concept as we understand it. You can imagine it as a core or soul, if you want. FI is to be aware of how the world affects you. FI dominant people, they don't have a core. They are their own core of themselves. Now imagine the world around you can perceive and affect you with everything. You are exposed to everything happening around you. What that means is you have no other choice but to think about everything, to overanalyze everything, because everything has such a direct and strong impact on you because you're exposed to the world at all times. And of course, they are reserved people by nature, introverts. That must be extremely stressful and tiresome. FI dominant people have told me a lot how stressful it is when people perceive when they do things, specifically perceive, which is interesting because you could describe this as anxiety. And the interesting thing is, FI dominant people are the most likely to be diagnosed by anxiety disorder or anything of that sort, which is interesting. Now, I'm going to give you an example. It's a really small one, but the fact that it is a small thing makes it even more apparent what FI is like in their day-to-day life. Developing a crush. Okay, most of us probably have experienced this at least once in their life. A regular crush. You see a person on the streets. Let's say you go out with friends, you have a good day, you have a good night, and you see someone on the dance floor dancing as if they don't care. All their friends are around them, but they are just having a good time by themselves. And you don't even see their face. It's just the vibes, the attitude, the context they are in is just good vibes. That has such a strong impact on you or the FI dominant people that they have to think about it a lot. Like, I have some notes. The impressions are so great that they have no other choice than to process it in whatever way they know. I say whatever way they know, but it is limited to their imagination alone. It almost never occurs to them to actually do or engage in it themselves. Almost people have almost to remind them you can just go talk to that person or you can do that yourself, but they don't think externally. They don't do that. They just don't. It's all in their head. They are more comfortable with processing life in their head. And I'm not exaggerating, it's exactly like that. Let me paint you a picture. They see a person on a dance floor surrounded by friends, dancing as if they do not care, not even seeing their face. Even with as little contextual information, they will obsess over this person scenario, invent a fake name for that person, invent a fake attitude for that person, construct fake scenarios with that person that they self insert themselves into these imaginations. They daydream a lot and they don't even know that they're probably doing it. They are because it's conscious, but it's such a natural response to them. Something small and insignificant, like a well defined calf or upper arm, can have such a deep impression on them that they will think about it for days or probably sometimes even months. What I told you now are examples people have told me personally when I talked about them with when I talked with them about this. And these are things that multiple people have told me similar stories about. To summarize, seemingly random and insignificant impressions in the grand scheme of things make a great impression on them based on subjective value systems. It's purely subjective. They don't even need to know the name. They don't care about the name. They will make it up in their mind. They will make up context in their mind. They don't care about objective contextual truth. Not really. Of course they do. They are not delusional, but in their daily activities, they will daydream. This is how they process things. To toss and turn information in their head with subjective scenarios in whatever way they know to make up their mind. Is this important to me? Does this make sense to me? Do I even care? This is how I process it. And yes, the examples I named were not really important in the grand scheme of things, but imagine what it does to them when it is actually important. Choosing a career, dealing with some sort of issues with their own partners, themselves, war. Jesus Christ. Yes, certain scenarios are for all of us stressful, but even more so for FI dominant people. Anxiety. Yeah, with all that said, this is a natural response. It's not something they choose to do to such a degree. It's completely natural. Accepting objective narrative or even reality as a whole in a stressful situation or moment or in a really unfortunate to them situation in some sort of context, in an objectively true context, they have very much trouble with that. Those are also the people that will either deny or say you lie or straight up slam the door in front of you or block you in their con, contacts so you cannot reach them to actually make up the situation or clarify or hold them accountable. Not everyone is like that, but they prone to this if they can avoid a bad situation and keep up their own narrative of an objective situation. They will try to do that. They almost have no other choice in their minds but to do that, to reject themselves, their own impressions of how things are or should be, to go against that. It's really difficult for them. Extremely so. Extremely so. It's almost like they're blind to it. Delusion. I'll give you an example. A friend that grew up in foster families, passed around every couple of years to different families. She had a couple of romantic relationships and is currently in a relatively stable relationship that she considers actual family, which is not easy for her to do. She found her ideal job, got two raises to her salary in the last 2 years, I think. She finally got a solid financial puffer for dire times, which she struggled with money. But now she is okay with that. She has some solid foundation now, which I could not be more proud of. Like she has no worth. And nothing was solid, nothing stayed. She has now all of that. Yet she says over and over again, if her partner breaks up with her, she will end it. I look at her confused and say to her, you have improved on this aspect of life. You have a handle on money, finally. You are wiser than you were in the past. You improved on almost all aspects of life, yet here you are telling me that none of this matters. What they are feeling will bleed into their objective thinking and twist and warp reality in such a way that you could describe them as delusional. In worst cases, extreme cases. Hmm? But that's the thing. Even in small aspects of life, like a crush, they will spin narratives for themselves to live out in their mind, which is okay. They are really good at that. They can differentiate that from reality. But as soon as their own narrative warps reality, objective truth, they can be difficult to keep themselves accountable for their own actions and words, and or completely misjudge the objective narrative and make wrong decisions and are stuck in their mind. And it's difficult to get them out of this. Very much so. Now, to summarize, FI is your core. For FI dominant people, they are their core themselves. It's completely subjective. Absolutely. Now, when they do not have enough information about seemingly unimportant things, like seeing a person outside for the first time, they will that they actually think is interesting, they will not usually go talk to them. They will just spin a narrative in their head, daydream about it for maybe weeks, days, or even months until they feel like they have whatever information they want from that situation, from that encounter. They will almost They will do everything in their head, except for most times actually go and do the thing. And that's enough for them to be in their head, to spin subjective narratives in their mind. To have FI as your dominant processing function means to be hyper aware of every little thing that is changing inside you. You might not even know how to describe it, but a lot is going on. Again, you are your own core and you are exposed to the world, and you cannot not think about things all the time. All the time. Now they develop crushes fast. Their favorite things, favorite song, favorite movie, food changes a lot because they think about these things a lot. And when you recontextualize, reframe the narrative because something else happened and it changes your outlook on this, it will change to something else. They struggle with finding favorites, even though you might think they have it easy, but no, they don't. And the anxiety part is when reality, objective truth, does not mesh well with their subjective impressions of the world, then there is friction, a lot of friction. They either avoid the encounter at all costs or wait until the very last second to do whatever they need to do. Or they will spin their own narrative and try to impose their own reality on objective reality, which can lead to trouble holding themselves accountable and being truthful, and to struggle with holding themselves accountable and acting like proper adults. Not all of them. This is in extreme cases, but they struggle with that more than most people. They also will assume you think like they do, in the sense that when they think about themselves a certain way, they will automatically assume that you think the same like they do about themselves. They do that naturally. That's why they avoid certain situations at all costs, because they assume that what they think about themselves, and is usually a negative thing, that people will see them like that also. Because you have to imagine having such a strong sense of self that is that it is almost impossible to not impose yourself and understanding of the world onto others. Completely natural to them that they do that. They don't even know that they're doing it. And to get them out of their head and, and acknowledge other people's opinions of them, on them, is so difficult. They will not believe you when you give them compliments if they are insecure. They will not they will not trust you. Not at all. Not even a little bit. They will not allow you to shape their own view of themselves to change. They will not allow other people's opinions to shape their own. If they don't care about you enough, if they care enough, they will allow it. And even then, they will have some sort of distance created. That's the subjective part. external validation or invalidation, objectively imposed on them or subjectively imposed on them. They are extremely resistant to it, to acknowledge external factors to change their way of thinking, which is very intriguing because they say they don't care about other people's opinions. And they generally don't because it's so difficult to change their own opinion. Yet they question themselves all of the time. All of the time. It's, it's fascinating. They have such a big ego, but pretend not to care. And it's not even something they realize. They say they don't care what you think about them, but they 100% do. And that's the interesting thing. If they don't care about you because you are not close to them, they will care, they will be more sensitive to those people's opinions than to an opinion from someone that is close to them, in my experience at least. Because they will stress out about, let's say, a job interview, and they will overthink and shit themselves so much they fear they fear public confrontation where they have to display themselves in front of other people's perceptions and other people's opinions. They fear it, they hate it, they cannot deal with it. They struggle with that aspect so much. But when a person that is close to them gives them their opinion and perceives them in a way that might make them appear vulnerable, they will be way more resistant to it. Even though they value that person's opinion more, they will be more resistant to it. Not always, of course, but that's just something I realized. That I guess the aspect of anxiety plays a role in that. The aspect of anxiety. I realized something. Because they feel more comfortable with people that are close to them. They feel less anxiety, therefore they are less afraid of showing who they are and saying, phew, and standing their ground and not feeling so vulnerable that they lose their shit. But with people they are not close to, there's too much distance, and they don't know that person too well, so they start to overthink and almost catastrophize the encounter with that stranger, and therefore they feel more vulnerable and exposed. Too much that they are not sure about, that too much they are not sure about that person that they do not know is more stressful than someone that is close to them because that intimacy is not there to function as a pillow, cushion of the confrontation, I suppose. Okay, that is helpful. I think we are getting somewhere. Okay, this is from my point of view, FI dominant. I have some other points, but they do not bleed into this as well as in other videos I want to make. So thank you for listening. And if you have something to say about these kind of people, or if you are one of those people that recognizes themselves as what I told now, please share your experience. It would mean a lot to me and other side, I'm sure. Stay safe until next time and drink enough water.